All right. Well, hello and good morning and happy New Year. Welcome back to school. Um, I'm assuming I'm like your first class of the year, but I don't know. Did anyone have an 8 a.m. today? You did. All right. And you went? You went to your 8 a.m. today? Good job. Good job. All right. Okay. Well, and everyone else, welcome back to school. This is Stats 102A, Introduction to Computational Statistics with R, or something like that. And my name is Miles Chen. I'll be your teacher. And I guess today we'll just kind of go over like the class as a whole, and I'll just kind of share some random thoughts. We'll get into actual content starting Wednesday, but today will just be kind of like welcome. All right, so let's see. So this is, I mean, you guys know how to use the computer. So this is our Canvas website, and 9 of you have already done homework 0, and the other 71 of you need to do it still. And that is basically, you're going to download the syllabus and read it, download the collaboration policy and read it, download the academic integrity and read it and sign it. And what you will do is you will upload the signed academic integrity agreement. And, you know, this is just basic policies about, like, you know, when you do your homework, you're going to do it yourself, and you're not going to ask someone else to do it for you, or you're not going to copy someone else, or use an AI these days to answer your homework and stuff, right? Some similar stuff with a collaboration policy. You can talk to you friends and stuff, but don't look at each other's code, and then don't post your answers on GitHub or something like that. Things like that. And then here we'll go over the syllabus. And whatnot. Well, I guess before we get started, did anyone do anything that they want to share with us about winter break? Anything exciting? Anybody get engaged? Anything major life events? I mean, maybe you went home, which is still cool, or maybe some of you. Did anyone stay at UCLA over winter break? Is that even allowed? I don't even know. I don't know what the rule is. Or stayed in Westwood, something. Okay, well, it's 9 a.m. Maybe one day you will want to share something in class. I went on a cruise with my family, went on a Disney cruise down to Mexico. And it was a blast. That was the first cruise I was on, and like they do all these shows and stuff. I don't know. It was great. It was great. So that was my winter break, plus holidays and all of that. But anyway, let's. Not responding. Okay. Oh dear. Okay. Hang on while Windows reports the problem to Microsoft. Let's try this again. Okay, seems to be okay. All right. Oh no. Well, this is unfortunate. Something's wrong with my PDF reader. Okay, let's see what else I can do here. Lordy, lordy. Oh my goodness. Okay. Jeez. Hang on a second. Okay. Adobe Acrobat, I gotta figure out what's wrong with you. I'll try this one more time. Let me open with a different program. It's not great. Firefox. Okay. How do I make this full screen? Page width. And then, good enough? All right, this will have to do for now. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about this class. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. I noticed some of you, like I said, 9 of you had already submitted your homework or whatever, your academic integrity agreements, but you guys signed it 2022, so old habits. But it's 2023 now, so you got to write that number now, okay? All right, let's look at some of the stuff from the syllabus. Oh, okay, so this is me, Miles Chen, and you can call me Miles. That's okay. I give you permission to call me by my first name. If that makes you uncomfortable, you can call me Professor Chen or Dr. Chen or things like that. I know sometimes you refer to like your teachers by just last name. Like, are you taking Chen? Or are you taking this class of it? Yeah, I don't like to be called just my last name. So okay, this is the grade breakdown. This is all in the syllabus, but this is what we got. We got lecture review, quizzes, homework, campus wire, a midterm, and a final, and that's that. Okay. As far as the homeworks, none of them are going to be dropped, and we'll have lecture review quizzes. The lowest one there will be dropped. As far as grading goes, I do not curve grades. There's, basically, different philosophies regarding grading among faculty and professors, and I fall on the side of no curves. And that's that. So don't ask me to round up your grade. Don't, what you get is what you get. My goal when I write an exam is to find the appropriate difficulty. And I target for like a median grade between 80 and 85 for exams. And so that's what I aim for. And if for whatever reason I write the exam and it's like way too hard or something and everybody does poorly, then I might just add points to everyone's grade, but not a curve. I don't do like this percentage get A's and this percentage get B's and this percentage get C's or anything like that. So just I might change something there. Okay. I do something called lecture viewing quizzes. So I don't do traditional attendance in terms of like I don't have a list of names and I go down the list or something like that. But you are required to watch lectures, and the way I kind of enforce the watching of the lectures is through the view quiz. And you can see the view quiz on so right here under week 1. We have week 1 Monday lecture viewing quiz, and so you'll go ahead and you'll open that up, and I guess I'll click preview here, and when you open up the quiz, it's going to look something like this, okay? And you got question 1, question 2, question 3. There's no context to the questions, it's just letters, and the only way you're going to get these answers is by listening to me. And so, for example, today, the very first question, the answer is the letter B. So you'll want to jot this down somewhere in your notes, okay? Or you can have the quiz open right now and you can start answering the quiz. And the first question, the answer is the letter B, B as in bear. And I will give you the answers to question 2 and question 3 later on in the lecture. If the end of class time rolls around, it's like 9:49 or something, and I haven't given you your lecture view quiz answers or something, just raise your hand, remind me, and I will give you your answers. But that's that. It's a quiz and it counts for points. So don't share answers to a quiz with other students. that's considered cheating, okay? And don't ask for answers to the quiz from someone else. Don't, basically treat it like a real quiz, okay? And, make sure you, so the quizzes are open from now until basically the next lecture, Wednesday morning. They close at like 8 a.m. or something like that. So, you have a little under 48 hours to take the quiz. Make sure you take it within that time. And that's just to kind of make sure you stay on pace, on track with the class. I record my lectures, and so there can be a temptation to, just allow a backlog of videos to form and say, I'll catch up and I'll watch like 5 lectures on Saturday or something like that. But that's miserable. And so to kind of make sure you stay on track, the view quizzes are only open for a limited amount of time. So just make sure you take the quiz during that time. And if you forget to take it, you're going to get a 0 on that quiz, okay? And then make sure when you enter the quiz answers that you do it correctly, okay? Double check what day it is. There should only be 1 quiz open at a time. There might be a couple times during the quarter where more than 1 quiz will be open because of a holiday or something like that. But in general, only 1 view quiz will be open at a time. Make sure you key in the correct answers, just because I'm not going to do retakes. All right. Does that kind of make sense as far as how this works? So that said, I like when you're in class. Okay, I like when you're in class. I know with the lecture view quizzes and the video recordings, you feel like, oh, you know what, it's 9 a.m. I don't want to show up to class or something like that. But please come to class. Certainly, if you are thinking in the back of your mind, one day I want to apply to grad school. One day I might need to ask for a letter of recommendation. Like, it's much easier if I know who you are. Okay, and to that end, like I. Sit in the first couple of rows, come to class, come to office hours, and let me know who you are, right? Those of you sitting in the back, like, I can see you there, but, you kind of just blend in as just this anonymous kind of group of students. So, make an effort to let me know who you are. All right, homework. Basically, do your homework, and you will upload your homeworks to Gradescope. That's how it goes. This is my office hours schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and also Tuesdays. So basically, 11:30 to 12:30. I do it on the 30s because just in case you have class from say 11 to 11:50, at least you can make it to the second half, or if you have class that starts up at noon, you can make it to the first half or something like that. So that's that. I also do Saturday mornings, so 5 separate times for office hours, and I think that's on the higher side of office hours, and I do that because I much prefer office hours as a form of communication, okay? I hate to say it, but I'm bad at email, all right? If you send me an email, like, it might be several days before you get a response. And if I feel like your question is answered in the syllabus, I might not even respond, okay? So I'm not great at email. I'm just not good at a lot of kind of like written communication. I'm the person that you text and then like 5 days later you get a response that says K. So anyway, if you have some kind of thing, some issue, some kind of question, come to office hours. All right, I try to make myself available. Basically every day we meet class, and you can come, and that you'll get a faster response that way. Okay. When you do come to office hours, introduce yourself, okay? Say, I'm Joe Bruin, and do that every time until I start saying like, oh, hello, Joe, like, and I recognize who you are, okay? And, I'm happy to answer any kind of questions you have. I'm happy to help with homework, or at least guide you through homework. I probably won't give you answers directly, but I'm happy to help and offer advice and tips there. If you have questions about, like, what should I be doing if I want to, get better at this or that, or, I'm working on this other project or something like that, I'm also happy to answer those questions. If someone makes a mistake in the grading of something, I'm also happy to correct mistakes. The one thing I don't like in office hours, and this doesn't happen very often, but I just kind of want to ward off something like this, is, if you do make a mistake on the homework and the grader says takes off 10 points for your mistake or something, I just don't want to get in an argument where you come back and you say, I think 10 points is too much. I think you should only take off 6 points or something like that. Those are the kinds of arguments I don't want to get into. Okay. But other than that, come to office hours, and that'll give me a chance to associate a name with a face, and I promise you your issues will probably get resolved faster by a conversation. All right. The other thing is we have a Campus Wire forum. You should have all received an email invitation to Campus Wire. If not, I'll probably blast out invitations again. That's where I want you guys to post your questions. So if you have questions or issues, go to the Campus Wire forum. And right now, I think there's just posts by me, but yeah, you can add a new post and put your questions up there. Participation on Campus Wire does count as part of your grade. And sometimes it feels like, oh gosh, how am I going to get these points? But it's really easy to get points. You just answer a few questions, right? Somebody asks a question, answer it, and you don't have to be on there 24 hours a day, but just chime in with an answer or something like that. And then, and if you see your classmates answering, be generous with your upvotes. Okay, so you get points. You earn points for answering questions, and you earn points if your answer gets upvoted. Okay, and so be generous with your upvotes. It doesn't cost you anything to upvote an answer, and that's how you'll generate points. Okay, put an honest, a good faith effort into your answers, and if I feel like people are abusing the system, then I might start deleting responses or things like that. But other than that, that's what we have. If you need an extension for an assignment or something like that, come chat with me via office hours. If you have some extreme circumstance where you can't come in person or talk to me over Zoom or something like that, then you can send me a direct message on Campus Wire. But office hours is generally the way to go. Regarding extensions, if you got something going on, I'm generally pretty flexible. The only time I'm a little hesitant to grant an extension is if you just say like, oh, I didn't want to do it or something. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. You don't have to do it, but just, maybe I'll say I won't give you an extension either. Okay, all right. Let me go ahead and give you your second view quiz answer for today, and that is the letter C. C as in cat. C as in cat is your second view quiz answer. Okay, C as in cat, and I'll be sure to give you your third answer later. All right. Okay, let's talk about what this class is about, and we'll get into that. Okay, so I assume a lot of you are either statistics majors, data theory majors, or something adjacent to that. So maybe applied math of computation or something. And the idea of data science as a potential career I imagine is on the mind for a lot of you. And so this class kind of serves as a introductory foundational course for that thing, right? And data science as a concept has maybe been around for like a decade or so. So it's relatively newer, and it's probably one of those things where, when you tell people, what are you studying or what do you want? And you say, oh, I want to do data science, and people might, there still might be some people who are like, what is that, right? How do you explain that? And I think my short answer for a lot of these things is, it's a little bit of a blend between statistics and computer science, where, we're trying to get answers out of data. And I would say a lot of data science kind of comes down to and this is from Drew Conway, there's your development of kind of skills comes from, we would say, coding skills, plus math and stats knowledge and domain expertise, okay? And so there's this Venn diagram, and he wrote, in his original Venn diagram, he wrote hacking skills. But this is basically, can you write little computer programs to work through a whole bunch of data, right? Because now we're in the territory, when statistics first emerged, we had, maybe 30 rows of data. That was like a big data set or something, right? 100 rows of data. And now we're in the territory of, thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions or even more data points. And certainly we just can't work through that with hand or, in traditional methods. So we have to be able to interact with the data via the computer, and that requires the development of coding skills. And that's what a lot of this class will be. You also need kind of math and stats knowledge, which you'll get from like the Stats 100 series or, Math 170, that kind of stuff, where you kind of get this foundational stuff on probability and that kind of theory. And data never exists in a vacuum. It always comes from some kind of real life context. And so you also need this domain expertise or substantive expertise. You need to know about the subject matter itself, so you understand basically what these numbers mean and how to interpret them in the first place, right? Like if you're going to analyze, say, baseball data, you need to understand about the game of baseball before you can start to do that, right? Otherwise, the idea of like, what's a batting average? Is a batting average of 0.25 good or bad? Or, what's a batting average of 0.4? 400, if you're familiar with baseball, you'd say, oh, batting average of 400, that doesn't sound real. Something's wrong, or it's either based on just like one game or something. But you need to be familiar with the subject, right? Sometimes students will come to me from their internships and they ask for help analyzing their data. And I remember, a student came to me and said, hey, can you help me analyze this kidney patient data? And I just had to be honest. I said, I know nothing about kidneys and this area of medicine. The student knew nothing about it either. So all of the numbers, like, sure, we could throw some algorithm at it, but it meant nothing to us. We weren't able to interpret any of the results just because we had no context of like, is 7.2 a big number or a small number? Is it a mistake? And so you need to have that substantive expertise to be able to understand and interpret the data. We can't give that to you, all right? The stats major, the data theory, basically no single major can cover every single subject that data science can be applied to, right? So if you want to go up into a certain field or certain sector, like you need to familiarize yourself with that kind of stuff there, right? So this you have to develop on your own, all right? The stats and data theory majors and a lot of these kind of adjacent majors can give you a lot of this stuff and a lot of this stuff, but you have to go seek this part out yourself, okay? All right, so this class, what did I write? I wrote is an introduction to the field of computational statistics and data science, and it aims to prepare you for data science by further developing your coding skills in R and applying those to some statistics applications. And I wrote, thematically, the course can be split into two parts. I would say the first half is really going to focus on advancing your programming and coding skills. All of you took Stats 20 prior to this class, and some of you took it with Professor Tang. Some of you took it with Professor Liu. Are there any other professors that you took Stats 20 with? Okay, and there's kind of different approaches and stuff, and I'm not sure what your coding experience was like there, but my goal is to push you a little bit further in your coding, as because that's an important skill that I want you to develop. Okay, and then once we cover some more stuff, then I'll start introducing some computational statistics methods like bootstrap, randomization test, those kinds of things there. Okay, this is kind of like a run through of the weeks 1 through 10, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'll get into that later. Okay, so these are topics that we will cover in lecture, and my job in lecture is to kind of present these materials and hopefully present it in a way that you can digest and understand. But you are responsible, and what you will need to develop outside of the lecture is really, I think, the heart of the class. And this is stuff I can't give you just by talking, right? This is stuff you have to develop on your own, right? It's like if you want to get better at playing basketball, you have to practice playing basketball. You can't just watch videos on basketball technique and expect to get better, right? And if you want to become better at coding, you got to write code, right? So these are things that you have to develop on your own with your own practices: reading and writing code, debugging code, this idea of problem solving, which it's very loosely defined, but I like to think of it as, taking a big problem and decomposing it into smaller problems that we can solve, right? And the idea of like, how do you even start to think about a problem and break it down? That's something you have to kind of develop, and it takes experience and it takes time, and another big thing is reading documentation. Okay. I'm not going to be able to teach you every single function out there, and so you have to be able to read documentation and learn how to use functions and new things on your own, and that's an important skill, being able to read that, right? And so the homework assignments that I've written and given you, they're intended to be kind of these structured exercises that help you develop these skills, right? And I think that's where the real learning happens. There's only so much I can give to you just by talking to you, where you sit in kind of this passive thing, and the real learning happens outside of the classroom when you're doing homework, right? And so when you do the homework, I want you to approach the homework intentionally, right? And say, I'm doing this homework with the intention of developing these skills, not just that the homework assignment gets done, right? I know that feels like, okay, I got to get the homework assignment done so I can get the points and stuff like that. But that's approach it intentionally with the goal of developing stuff. In order to graduate from UCLA, you have to take a course that fills your Writing 2 requirement, right? And have you guys already taken this class and stuff? And I imagine in that class, you probably had to write 6 essays, more. I don't know. What was the fewest number of essays you had to write in your Writing 2 class? But you had to write a lot, right? That's kind of the point, and that's because it's important to be able to write and present your ideas clearly. And I like to think of this as kind of the coding equivalent of that. UCLA doesn't have a coding requirement to graduate, but certainly if you want to graduate and enter data science as a career, you need to be able to code, right? It would be, I don't know what the right word is, embarrassing to UCLA if you say, I want to go into data science and you don't know how to write code, right? So this class is kind of, think of it as a coding 2 class in terms of you're going to have to write a bunch of code, right? And that's going to help you develop that. Okay, so I got to talk a little bit about academic integrity and plagiarism, and here's just some truths about what's out there and the tools and resources that are out there. Okay, if you wanted to just get the homework assignments done, okay, there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of tools and resources out there where you can just kind of search on the internet or find people. You can contract out your work and stuff, and you can get all of your homework assignments done. Okay, right? There's a lot of kind of high quality code out there that does exactly what you need. There's a lot of kind of ready to install packages. There are AI tools, right? That there's all kinds of stuff that can now like do these tasks for you, and it's really impressive. And if the goal is to get the job done, don't feel bad about using the tools that are out there, right? When you are programming, when I'm trying to like write something and do something, like I have to go on Google, I have to go on Stack Exchange, I have to kind of find some of these things because I don't remember everything and I need some help sometimes, okay? But the goal of the homework that I assign you is not that the task needs to be done, okay? I'm not getting any benefit from you doing the homework, all right? The homework is there for you to help you learn, okay? It's to give you an opportunity to practice and develop the skills. So that's the idea there, okay? I want you to think of homework as like going to the gym, okay? If you go to the gym to lift weights and stuff, and I know like in January like Woodin Center is like crazy crowded and stuff, but if you lift weights at the gym, the goal of lifting weights at the gym isn't that weights get picked up off the ground, okay? It's the goal is that by doing the lifting of weights, you get stronger, right? And there's also this idea that it's good to get tired and exhaust yourself or push yourself to where you feel a little bit of fatigue, and if your workout didn't stretch you at all, like you can't expect to be making much gain, right? And similarly, the homework is intended to challenge you, right? And this is a hard thing to do as an instructor. Is like there's 80 of you enrolled in the class, and you are at different levels, and I'm giving you all the same homework, right? Some of you are already like very good coders, and this homework's not going to challenge you. And others of you like you're kind of early on in your coding thing, or maybe struggling a lot with some of these basic ideas, and so the homework might be a little bit too challenging. My goal is to kind of hit that middle sweet spot where most of you feel a little bit challenged but not overwhelmed. It's a little bit tough to pull that off, but the idea is you struggle a little bit. It forces your brain to work hard, and when you sleep and rest, your brain's going to form new neurons, new connections, and you're going to develop and get better at all of these things, okay? When you plagiarize code, or if you get help from an AI or get help from someone else, ask someone else to basically do the problem for you, it's kind of like going to the gym to work out and then asking someone else to lift the weights for you, okay? And we'd say, oh, that's silly. And that's only useful if the goal of working out was so that weights get lifted, right? If the goal is that weights get lifted, sure, that's an appropriate thing to do. But again, the goal is not that the weights get lifted. It's the goal that you do it yourself so that you get stronger. And similarly with the homework, the goal is not that the task gets done. I don't care if the task gets done. It's that you go through that process and you develop as a coder, right? So it's the difference between lifting weights and like moving a couch, right? When it's time to move a couch, the goal is to move the couch. And so sure, ask your friends, hire someone else to do it for you. But as far as working out and doing homework, the goal is your own development, okay? So I want you guys to think about the homework that way, so that you develop, okay? And as far as plagiarism goes, I don't think it's because students are evil or lazy or something like that. I mean, maybe a student or two might feel that way, but I feel like when students do plagiarize, I think what has happened is the student has confused what the goal of the homework in the class is, right? You guys are paying a lot of money to go to school here, right? And I think it's worth it, right? I'm biased, of course. I love UCLA, and I think it's the best school ever, and certainly worth worth the tuition and what you will gain from it. But again, the goal of you going to school and getting your degree is that you develop a set of skills, and you learn stuff, and you become, you expand your brain here, right? That's the goal. And it's not, yes, we do want you to get your degree, but certainly we want to develop you past that. Okay. So anyway, don't mix up the goals of the course. Okay. We want you to learn. Okay. And so anyway, as far as my expectations, like put forth a good faith effort, and if you're not able to complete the homework assignment to 100% by the deadline, submit what you have, and if you didn't finish it to 100%, you're not going to get 100%, right? I don't grade based on completion. Like I do grade the homeworks based on whether it runs and whether it's actually doing what we ask you to do, asked it to do. So that does count. But if you can't get it to run, that's okay. All right, just turn in what you have, and you'll lose some points. But I also want you to be okay with that, and just say, you know what, this is an area I need to continue working on, continue developing. Okay. A little bit about the collaboration policy. Basically, and this comes to CampusWire as well, you can talk to your friends and classmates about, how do you approach a problem, but don't actually share the code itself, okay? And I put in some examples of what's allowed and what's not allowed, but basically you can say, you know what, I did this. There's a lot you can describe, and you can say, I created a for loop, and within each iteration, these are the functions I used, and these are the ideas that we put into place. What I don't want you to do is write the actual code. Okay, so don't share actual code on CampusWire, and I've got just different examples about this and that. Same thing with debugging. Okay, you are allowed to share error messages as far as when you're encountering problems and you can't figure out why you're encountering errors and stuff. You can share the error message, but don't share the code itself. Okay. At least when it comes to an assignment. If you have questions about code from the lecture itself, go ahead and share the code from lecture slides and things like that. And you can say, hey, what is it about this particular line of code, and why is it doing this? And you can talk about that. So that's fine. But as far as doing the homework, I want to make sure you guys write your own lines of code here. Okay, and this last section, I've titled Grades and Life, and this is just a little bit of unsolicited advice and perspective from me that I want to give to you, just regarding, I guess, school and academics in general, and work-life balance and all of that. So first of all, you are here at UCLA, and we are proud of you for being here. Okay, and I hope you guys felt a lot of pride when you were admitted to this school, and I hope you feel like you're getting a good education here. And one of the reasons why you got into UCLA is because you had good grades, right? UCLA looks at your grades and your transcripts as part of your admission criteria, and basically because so many people want to come to UCLA gets, the admissions group gets to be very selective and say, hey, we only want these high-performing students, right? And a lot of your energy is poured into your classwork and stuff, and so grades feel really important. But that said, your grades do not define you, right? Your value as a person does not come from your grades, does not come from your academic achievements, and they are certainly not the most important thing in life. And your value as a human, like your value as a person, is so much more than just your academics, right? And even after you graduate, your value as a person is so much more than your job and your title and your income, or your professional achievements. You as a person, have the capacity to, love and relate and better the lives of people around you. And it's not just your grades or your academic achievements. Okay. Grades play a role, and certainly it feels good to get good grades, but there's so much more beyond that. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about work-life balance. And I've just broadly painted kind of three large categories as far as, where our energies and time can go. And I said, we can put our energies into basically work-related stuff, and that right now that's going to be, school and academics. And for some of you, it's also actual jobs and internships that you have. Okay. Another area you could put in your time and energy is into relationships, and that's either with your friends and family, or if you have a romantic partner, other social obligations. And there's certain things that kind of span both, right? You might be part of a club, and it feels both part of this work/relationship thing, and that's fine, right? This idea of networking is both of those, right? And then we can also put energy into ourself, right? And we have to care for our own kind of physical health, right, by getting sleep and eating well. Also take care of our mental health, care of our spiritual health, if that's something that applies to you. And the truth is there are only 24 hours in a day, and it's not possible to give 100% to every single one of these categories. Okay, and that's I think something that is that's something you have to wrestle with, right? You don't get to put all of your points everywhere, right? You have to split these. And I believe work-life balance, okay, and having satisfaction in this is by making conscious decisions about what's important to you and devoting your time accordingly to what's important to you. And in general, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And when you put less time and energy into something, the natural consequence of that thing is that aspect of your life is going to get weaker. All right, that's just naturally what's going to happen. And so I have a couple kind of just silly examples, or just I don't know if they're silly, but one is let's say you have a group of friends, and this might be something you've gone through or you've noticed a friend go through, right? You're part of a group of friends, and then one day you become involved with a romantic partner, right? You start dating someone, and now you're spending a lot of time with this romantic partner, and because you're putting a lot of energy into it, your relationship with that romantic partner is getting stronger, okay? But now you're spending less time with your original group of friends. And so just the natural consequence of what that's going to do is you're not going to be as close to your original group of friends as you used to be, okay? And that's just what happens, right? And there might come a day where your friends go out and they didn't invite you to something, right? And sometimes it feels hurtful. It feels hurtful, like, oh, why didn't they invite me? And it's not that they're trying to be like vengeful or something about trying to be hostile about you having a romantic partner, but that's just the natural consequence of spending less time on something, right? And as people, you get to choose what's important to you, right? And if it's more important for you to maintain your older friendships than it is to develop something with this romantic partner, right? You can judge kind of like, oh, is this somebody I see like a long-term relationship with? And then you say, yeah, I'm going to put a lot of time into it. Or if it's just like, oh, if it's not that important to me, you can put less time into it and spend more time with your friends. And that's just kind of the balance of these things, right? And so if you can kind of happily accept the natural consequences of where your time and energies are going, I think you can kind of go through a lot of these things with less bitterness, less jealousy, things like that. Like a work example is, in the professional world, and this isn't always true. You might be in some kind of toxic work environment where this isn't the case, but a lot of times, when you devote a lot of kind of energy into the goals of the company, those people get rewarded, right? And so from the company's perspective, who should get promoted, right? There's, the person that does everything that was asked of them, and then they continue to stay at work and did even more than what was asked of them. And then there's the other person who did everything that was asked of them, but then as soon as they finished their work commitments, they left and they went home to spend time with their friends and family. And that's totally fine, okay? But from the company's perspective, they may be like, oh, you know what? It makes sense to reward the person who doesn't have friends and family and spends all of their time at work. And it's not that the person's being punished for having friends, family, or a romantic partner, but it's just, from the company's perspective, maybe it makes sense to reward the other person. But, again, as a person, you get to choose what's important to you, right? Is it important for you to kind of quickly climb the corporate ladder? Then maybe you want to be the first person, okay? Is it more important for you to kind of have these things outside of work? Then, be the second person. But don't get angry when, just the natural consequences of these things kind of take place, right? So that's kind of what's going on, right? I feel like, I feel like I have a pretty decent work-life balance. For me, I have a family. I've got 2 children, and I try to make it a priority to spend a lot of time. And part of the consequences of that is that I'm bad at responding to emails, and I try to warn my students about this and things like that. But yeah, you email me. I don't put a lot of time into that aspect of my job, and so maybe that makes me a little bit less of a good professor who's quick to respond to everyone's requests and emails. But I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay that this is an aspect of my professional development that I'm not going to put that much effort into that part of my job, and I feel like I try to compensate with having a bunch of office hours and stuff like that. So anyway, that's that. The last thing is self-care is important. Make sure you get lots of sleep. Make sure you take care of your own kind of health and your mental health and all of that. And this is not just some platitude, okay? This is not just like, oh, take care of your mental health and I'm also trying to make your life miserable by giving you a ton of work that's overwhelming or something like that. When I say your own mental health and your own self-care is important, what I'm also saying is I want you to give permission to yourself, right, to evaluate the situation and say, in this moment, it's more important to get rest. It's more important to take a day off than it is to complete the assignment, okay? And the natural consequence of that is you don't complete the assignment, you submit it, you're not going to get 100%, okay? But I want you to be able to come to a point where you say, I when the first time I realized this, it was a little bit jarring because like throughout all of my high school, I felt like, okay, here's the homework, I have to do it. And I'm like being a bad person when I don't do my homework. But I want you to realize like, no, I'm making a conscious decision to take care of this instead of this other thing. The consequence is I'm going to lose points on this other thing, this homework that I'm not going to do. But I'm okay with that because instead I'm taking care of myself, right? And so I want you guys to be okay with that. Reach a point where you feel comfortable doing something like that, and you don't have to feel like you're being a bad person or a bad student by not doing your homework. Right? Obviously, if it's like, okay, every single homework assignment I'm not going to do because I need to take care of that. Right? Maybe it's not sustainable like that, but every now and then I want you to feel okay with that and feel, and be okay with the natural consequence of not doing your homework. That's what we're saying. That's what I'm saying when I say your self-care is important. Okay. What is this? Oh, I wrote beware of fruitless entertainment. Okay. All right, and I'm going a couple minutes over. Oh, let me give you your last view quiz answer. Last view quiz answer is the letter D. D as in dog. D as in dog is your last view quiz answer. Okay, let me just say this last thing. I am all for doing entertainment, having fun, watching TV, watching movies, playing video games. I played a bunch of video games over winter break, and I had a great time. I just want to warn you about certain activities that what I call fruitless, okay? In that when you take a break from work, what should happen is you feel refreshed afterwards and you feel ready to take on more work, and it gives you this mental boost, right? There are some apps, some activities that are not designed about building you up as a person, but just about keeping you hooked so you keep scrolling infinitely or something like that, okay? And you know that these apps are bad for you because you might spend hours, like an hour doing this activity, and then afterwards you don't feel any better, and you just feel like, oh man, I wasted a bunch of time or something like that, okay? Just be mindful of those kinds of things, and maybe try to, curb how much time you spend doing those things, okay? I have posted homework 1, but it's day 1. I haven't covered anything of importance. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the most important in terms of lecture stuff I'm going to give you. But as far as like lecture content, course content, I haven't covered that. So don't feel like you have to be able to do homework 1. Go ahead and open it, take a look at it. But that's that. All right. Looking forward to a great quarter with you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday. And have a good rest of your days.
Thank you.
Thank you.